Hello, and welcome everyone to today's Eloqua office hours. This is our monthly discussion for Eloqua professionals. I'm Richard Holder, and I will be your host today. Before I introduce today's topic, just a few housekeeping items. This presentation is being recorded, and tomorrow you'll receive a link in an email to the replay. We encourage you to use the Q&A feature to ask questions. This helps us keep things organized and make sure we get through all of them. We welcome any new questions or tips and tricks that you want to share with others, or questions about today's presentation, or even suggestions for future events. Today we're talking about driving growth through collaboration. Our two guests are Mindy Chase from Morningstar and Colleen Lenahan from Forethought Marketing. Thank you, Mindy and Colleen, for joining us today.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Richard, for having me.
All right, Mindy, why don't we start by having you introduce yourself and tell us about your role at Morningstar?
Sure. So first, I'll just let you know about what Morningstar is. You might not have heard of us. We are a financial services firm. So we are not a sausage company. There is another Morningstar that is a sausage company. That's not what we do. So we provide data primarily to other financial services firms. Also, you might have heard of us because we provide the star rating. So if you go into your Schwab account and you're buying stocks, you'll see some different star ratings. We are one of the providers of those. So that's who Morningstar is. I lead our marketing operations function. Marketing operations at Morningstar is really defined of within our sorry, my brain just quit on me. It's comprised of our intelligence function, which is our analytics and optimization group, our campaign operations function, which really builds all of our campaigns in Eloqua, as well as the rest of our marketing stack. We have a technology management function, and then a overall planning function, which helps us with project and program management.
Great. And Colleen, for those who aren't familiar with you?
Hello, I'm Colleen Lenahan. I am a senior PM here at Forethought Marketing. I've been here about 2.5 years, leading on various projects from campaign services to more strategic projects like the one that you will hear about today. And I'm excited to be here and share our experience with you all, and hope that it is helpful as you go to solve your own challenges at your own companies.
Great. And for those who don't know me, I'm Richard Holder. I am the Director of Marketing here at Forethought Marketing. And prior to joining Forethought Marketing about 5 years ago, I was a Forethought Marketing client for a large financial institution. So that's a little background on us. All right, so let's turn to the topic of today's event. This one's for you, Mindy. What started the conversation about hosting this marketing event? And of all things, a hackathon.
Absolutely. So historically, we had an event that we called Demand Gen Summer Camp. And Demand Gen Summer Camp was a yearly event where we would bring all of the demand gen marketers together, and we would have some learning event or educational event, either for the demand gen team or for the larger marketing organization. And we had done that, I think, 2 or 3 years. And this year we were exploring different ideas. And so this idea of what we implemented was one of the ideas proposed to evolve our demand gen summer camp activity.
Fantastic. So this is an annual event?
This is an annual event, Demand Gen Summer Camp. It's a time we believe that we should be growing our skill set always. Marketing is a function that is constantly changing, and we believe that our leadership, Nicole Conkle, she really truly believes that we should always be learning and always be evolving. And so she dedicates this time. It's usually about a week for us to gather and really focus focus on leveling up not only our education, but the education of our stakeholders, so that of what we do. So not only on marketing things, but also in, you know, leveling up on what are the services that we provide, and what are the things that we're delivering for the marketing function as a whole.
Yeah, and who is invited to attend? Is it the entire marketing organization? Is it just a subset?
You know, we kind of play with that every year and evolve it. And so every year it's gotten bigger. So the first year it was just the demand gen team, and it was kind of an internal learning time. The next year we invited all of marketing, and it was more of an external learning time, so that we could you know, share out what we were doing, and things like that. And then this year it was really a combination, because we went with the hackathon, this idea of a hackathon. We had some marketers that were identified by leaders to say, hey, let's get marketers from each area within the central marketing function. So we're really trying to play with it every year and see what works for the overall organization.
And for you, I know everyone has a different thought process behind a hackathon. I know for developers it's pretty standard, but how did you interpret hackathon for this event?
Sure. So I came from Indeed. Indeed has a real culture around innovation, and Indeed has a hackathon that they run for the whole company twice a year. I think it's twice a year. Basically, anybody at the company, whether you're an engineer or a marketer or an accountant or a food server, whatever your role is, you can put out your hackathon idea, and people will join your team. And so it's a cross-functional team. You know, and it's everything from, I want to get a calorie counter for the lunch menu, to, you know, new product ideas. And at Indeed, it was an amazing program whereby the whole company kind of shut down for this 1 week, twice a year. And you had about 3 days to develop your prototype or whatever it was. And then you would present it on the last day. There were judges. And then the winner actually was funded. I don't remember what the funding was, but it was basically funded to build out your prototype, build out your idea as a proof of concept, as potentially something that could lead to a future product. So I had been in those hackathons at Indeed, and I really enjoyed them, and I found them to be a really powerful way to pull together cross-functional teams in a way that was fun, and also would help you to solve problems quickly. And so when we were brainstorming for this year's summer camp, I thought about the hackathon, and I thought about the challenges that sometimes we face, you know, which is we want to be perfect. We want to get to perfection. And it's hard to get things done sometimes when you want to get to a state of perfection. And so also we're growing a lot as a team. And so and we have a very matrixed environment. And so the thing about the hackathon at Indeed was it brought together all these disparate people united under one cause, if you will. And so I thought that for Morningstar, it would solve for a number of areas. One being, how can we deliver something really quickly and feel confident that we delivered a good idea? It doesn't have to be finished. It doesn't have to be perfect, but a good idea to market. And then conversely, how do we bring a group of disparate people together that may not work together on a day-to-day basis, but how do we bring them together to form a small squad to solve a problem together and build that muscle to start doing these things in a repeatable manner? And then thirdly, we wanted to solve for life cycle.
Fantastic. Colleen, did you want to add something there?
Yeah, so I began working with Mindy earlier this year on this life cycle project. So trying to come in and help come up with a roadmap and a strategy to transition from more batch and blast style emails to a more user triggered life cycle campaign strategy based on, where an individual is in their journey. And so as we began our work on that and identified areas that needed to be built as kind of initial infrastructure to build upon, to build the campaign strategy that we want to see, it kind of dovetailed nicely with the timing of their usual summer camp time. So it really was kind of a serendipitous thing where it came together, and we identified some of our baseline items we needed to establish and get in place first to be able to truly launch lifecycle marketing. So it really was a convergence of two different things, and I think we're ended up working out very well to really jumpstart that work going forward.
Well, that sounds great. It's funny how everyone expects marketing to be very creative, and sometimes it's just recognizing an opportunity and taking advantage of that. Just want to remind everyone, if you have questions, I did see someone who raised their hand. Please use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. That way we can queue those questions up and we can move forward. All right. So I imagine this required a lot of planning. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about how you prepared?
Sure. So we had a committee. A summer, Demand Gen Summer Camp Planning Committee. And so we were batting around all the different ideas. One of the ideas was a hackathon. Once we had agreed that everybody liked the idea of a hackathon, which was kind of a stretch. It was different, right? And it's not a typical hackathon. Like to your point, it's solving a problem, but it's not. We weren't, developing, an app or anything. And so it took a leap of faith by the team, by the committee to say, we can see the vision and we like the idea, even though we're not quite sure what it is yet. And so they took that leap, and we started planning the hackathon. And then really we had to plan out what was the hackathon theme, because like I was saying at Indeed, each hackathon team really solved for whatever they wanted to solve for. And what we decided was, since this is our first time doing this, we thought that we should have one theme that everybody solved a predefined problem or challenge. And so we worked really hard to define what those were. Colleen did a ton of work on this scoping, and we really defined out, what was it, 4 or 5 areas, Colleen? I think 4. Yeah, we defined 4 areas of things that, Colleen had identified. Hey, if you want to build a life cycle, you need these things. And so let's brainstorm these big things in the hackathon and see if we can move the needle faster to get to a point of definition, and with some hypotheses and big picture solutions that then we can go off and move faster. So the planning was definitely extensive, but we had a great team, and so we were able to. And we had built other hackathons or other summer camps in the past, so we worked really well together as a team.
Great, great. Without sharing anything confidential, what were some of those topics that you ultimately selected? Can you give us a flavor of that?
Sure. So Colleen did great work to help us identify a roadmap for, what we needed to do in order to deliver on our life cycle. And so I'm happy. I don't think it's anything secret. It's, the first thing that we wanted was, we really wanted a modular email template system. So we have templates in Eloqua, but they're not modular in nature. They're not really scalable from a, you know, they're not scalable from either a language perspective or region or dynamic content perspective. And so really overhauling our template system was a big one. What does that mean, and what does it look like, and how does it work? All of those things. Colleen, I'll probably need you to help me to remember all four. I know another of them was really defining how we welcome people into our database, and what does that workflow look like to welcome somebody in and make sure that they have the best path into the life cycle from the point when they first became unknown contact. Colleen, help me out with the other two.
Yeah, and then so the last two were one was coming up with a solution for managing the marketing content,
Right.
which we said could be a CMS, could be an Excel file, whatever you guys come up with. And then the fourth one was reducing barriers to lead entry. So specifically looking at forms and like how we can shorten them or get a minimum viable amount of information to enter them in, and then maybe use other solutions to supplement that data to better target communications. So what we did to plan for this is really provide for each of these four projects, a framework of, here are the current challenges, here are the needs, here's the desired state, and maybe some initial ideas to get them started. But the entire purpose of the hackathon, and we had 2 teams working on each of the 4 projects. So we got different ideas on the same challenge. The idea was to blow it open and say, we're so used to working within restrictions of like, oh, well, we can't do that because X, we can't do this because Y. So this was really an experience in leaning into uncertainty and into ambiguity and saying, if we could do it, what would be the best way to solve these challenges? And it doesn't have to be the standard way that people use. It could be something unique and different. So we really wanted to leverage the creativity and the variety of roles and expertises that we had on each of the hackathon teams, because they can bring their own unique perspective. And sometimes, those who are more outsiders to this can actually provide some of the most valuable information, because they can ask key questions like, well, wait, why do you do it that way? And make people really think about, oh yeah, I don't know. We never questioned that before.
Yeah, I think that's great when you bring together a diverse set of people, inside and from the external to a process. I agree with you. Sometimes the best insights are the obvious question that everyone just rushes past because that's the way we've done it, or that's the way we hear everybody else does it. That's not necessarily the way to do it. And so challenging those assumptions is a great thing. So let's turn the corner just a little bit, and I want to remind everyone if you have questions, because I thought the 4 topics were excellent. Not surprising as well, though, because it seems like often the fundamentals of what we do in marketing are often the challenges that we face year after year. So, it's not the super hard things, it's sometimes the basics there. So did you have some surprising insights that came out from these 4 different groups?
Yeah, we had prizes and judges. Were very, very fun. And one of the teams that won one of the prizes, they weren't prizes like first, second, third, fourth. They were like most innovative, or I don't know. They were all fun prizes. But one of the teams had a really great idea that was completely out of the box around how to solve for this the CMS, or the content management. And that team did not have a lot of marketing automation professionals on the team, and so they came at it from a really unique way that was out of the box for someone who builds campaigns in Eloqua every day. And so I thought that type of innovation was really exciting to see, and it resonated with everybody. I don't know, Colleen, if you have other things that stand out for you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess surprising in a good way for me was how much everyone really threw themselves into it. And like the teams got very enthusiastic about their own project. And so day one, we did a lot of the planning and preparation. And then day two, each team got to do a 5 minute, I think it was a 5 minute presentation showcasing their idea. And like some of them worked late into the night to work on their presentations. And like one of the prizes was for most creative presentation. So it was really, I think it would not have been as successful if people hadn't fully embraced it the way they did. And, it's hard to ask people to give up a day and, 2 full days or a day and a half of their normal work and not be worried about, oh, okay, but I should be working on this other thing, or feeling kind of disgruntled maybe that they're being asked to do something so far outside their role. But that was not the case at all with this group. They really embraced the call to lean into uncertainty and to think outside the box and to just go with it. I know it's easier for some people to go with uncertainty than it is with others. So, it's a activity that forces people out of their comfort zone a little bit, and everyone really dove into it. And I think because of that, we got some really great results. So I'd say that was a pleasant surprise on my end, was how much everyone really um, made the most of it and made it useful.
Great. We have a question from our audience here today, and I'm going to interpret the question just a bit, so give me some leeway here. So they asked, how would you promote more participation in future events? And perhaps this is, um, maybe for those who are struggling to get the
Yeah.
kind of
I
participation you had.
mean, the way that so I don't think we had um, any problems with participation. The way that I read this question is more, how would we expand this to get more people involved? Because what we did have a limited group of people. And so what I would say is there are two things. One is that I would open it up to more people. I would definitely open it up to a larger group of people. But secondly, the feedback that we got that I thought was really good was to open up the creativity so that the topics were driven by the teams versus by us. And I thought that as well, but I thought for the first one we wanted to do a very narrow topic. And so I think the way that we could get more participation in the future is, number one, to open up the topics so that it's more user driven. And then number two, to open up the capacity so that more people could participate. Colleen, your thoughts?
Yeah, and something we definitely emphasized several times throughout the process is that this way of working was really a pilot test, and emphasized that, if they liked this approach, others teams could use it to help solve their challenges as well. So making it less about, oh, come help us solve our problems, but more as like, here's an innovative way we can work together to rapidly ideate and come up with solutions to some of our trickiest challenges. So really
Yeah.
including them as partners, not just as like, hey, we need to use
That's
you for 2 days kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I will say that the culture at Morningstar is one of extreme collaboration, more than I've ever seen at another company. And so participation and collaboration are like things that are rooted in our culture and our ethos. And so I think that those are things that maybe other companies would struggle with, but we don't have it. And I know even at Indeed, um, you know, the hackathon, which was totally optional, um, was an extremely powerful event that was had a very large attendee group. Like, people really wanted to participate in it. It really allowed you to be creative in a way that most people don't get to be creative on a daily basis, even in marketing where you are creative.
Absolutely. Totally agree. I'm sure you walked into this meeting with certain assumptions about some of the decisions that the groups would come up with. Did you find that there were any of these, you came in with a thought process and maybe you thought they would want it to change or something, but actually it confirmed what your plan was or your original thinking, maybe expanded a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, that was actually, I wouldn't say surprising, but just illuminating, I guess, to see that. So, like I said, we had two teams working on each challenge. And while, different teams had different maybe ways of going about it or like little features that were unique, I feel like their ideas confirmed kind of where we thought we would be going with these, but also provided a level of, because they had, a full day to dig into researching things and spending a lot of focused time on the laying the groundwork and the foundation. So I'd say it's the work that came out of it is very useful then, because as I'm going to start working on these projects with Mindy, I'm starting by going to the hackathon notes and pulling all of that great work that the teams did as a starting point and kind of deciding of the two ideas, which aspects of each we can bring in and are most viable in the situation. So I would say there wasn't anything that was completely divergent from kind of where we thought we would go with it. So in a way that was very affirming and showed us we're on the right path, and maybe opened up some other aspects of it that we hadn't considered to incorporate into it.
Great. So we're getting close to the end here. Just want to remind everyone, if you have any questions, uh, now's the time to ask them in the Q&A button. So what are the next steps?
Yeah, so as I just alluded to, I think part of increasing that participation and building the trust and building the partnerships across departmental teams is to really follow through and show them how that work is going to be utilized. It's not just going in a drawer somewhere where they feel like, why did I spend 2 days doing that? Then, so we first did a presentation talking about how we're going to implement the ideas that they came up with and showed them a rough timeline of how that's going forward. So I've taken these the ideas from, like I said, I have compiled all the notes into one document with the best aspects from the two projects or the two teams on each project. And as we start working on these things, so we've started working on the modular email template and now the welcome email. I take all that as a starting point, and it's it's great because it's like having something pre-made and ready to go rather than having to start from scratch. And it's really laying the foundation to be able to hit the ground running and not have to spend as much time kind of developing the initial framework. It's more like, okay, here's what they came up with. This part I think will work. Maybe we tweak this part, maybe this part we don't use. So it's really jump starting our work on this. And, I think it's key if you do plan to do something like this at your companies that you make sure you're showing the participants how their efforts are being used so that you have that buy-in, and you build that trust because they put their trust in you by giving you 2 days of their time. So really showing that it's going to good use to making things happen.
Great. Mindy, any closing thoughts from you?
I mean, this timing, but this morning I just got a request from a marketer in another team that said, "Hey, I'd like to brainstorm. I want to host a hackathon to solve for, some things, and, would love to get some ideas." So I think that it was very successful. It was a unique thing that I think people enjoyed, and it seems like people are now wanting to take that idea and make it their own, which is really what success looks like from my perspective.
Well, great. Well, thank you both, Mindy and Colleen, for your time today. Thank you, Mindy, for agreeing to participate with us today. Colleen, I know I roped you into this, so we'll just take it that way. So let me just do some closing things here. And I'll